Yo, what is up, Ramblin Raiders listeners? Welcome back to the podcast for our Ramblin preview of Kansas State at Texas Tech. Night game in the Jones in October for Homecoming Lane is it's always a special time when you get around Halloween and the kids are going crazy out there, man. With
Yeah, absolutely.
with the beers, with the candy, and everything else that they provide at Jones AT&T Stadium. So it should be a good game. Honestly, a great matchup. A kind of pivotal moment for both of these teams when you look at Texas Tech and Kansas State and where their seasons are at. Both squads are not where they wanted to be, with all the preseason hype that they had. Kansas State winning the Big 12 last year. I think a lot of people probably figured this was going to be a, 4-1 and 5-1 sort of matchup going into this game. However, we have Kansas State. They're a game behind us. So I believe we're 3-3, and I believe they're 3-2 with losses to Missouri and to Oklahoma State. Wow, that one had to sting. So, both these teams are, and also kind of mirror each other, which we're going to get into here in a bit. Before we do that, we're going to break this down for you, Griffon style here, going through the keys of the game, not being biased whatsoever, not doing any kind of homer nonsense. We're just going to, give you the analytics and give it to you straight as it should be. But before I do that, I want to plug our socials. Ramblin Raiders Entertainment, guys. You can find us all over, the social media platforms. We have a website, ramblinraiders.com. We're also on YouTube, Ramblin Raiders Media. So if you're watching this here, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Help us continue to grow our channel. And then also, if you're enjoying this content and the quality of the podcast, hit that like button on there as well. Twitter, we're at Ramblin Raiders. Follow us there. If you're on Instagram, we're at Ramblin Raiders. TikTok, at Ramblin Raiders. We're trying to put some more content out there. And then our Facebook page for all you old timers is Ramblin Raiders Podcast. Go check out our Facebook page as well. So, Lane, and look, if you see me, pull out the canteen here, the full gallon of water, it's because Lane and I are about to hit a triple header at the Gus League. Some say it's like the Little Ivies. I mean, it doesn't get much better than the Gus League for guys that have 8 to 5 jobs Monday through Friday in their 30s. It doesn't get any bigger than this. It's the show.
I kind of compare it to, I don't know if you've followed it, but some of the listeners might have out there, the Wrexham show, the soccer team, football team that Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElherney bought. They're in the lower league of English football, and they're looking for promotion. We're right there. We're in the lower tiers of the slums of Houston. We're looking for promotion. If we win the league, we can move up. So
that's it. You're right. That's a great comparison. And our team, the Air Buddies, like, we're hunting for a title tonight.
That's right. We're hunting for a title. We need 3 big wins.
And so, yeah, when I'm drinking this water, I just want y'all to know I'm not, it's not like cutting season or bulking season or anything like that. I'm just trying to stay hydrated as an old ass so that I don't pass out there in a triple header, which can really get to you here at my age. So the other team that's going to be hunting for, still hunting for a Big 12 championship, also hunting for a win come Saturday, Texas Tech Red Raiders. We have an interesting matchup, Lane. Let's go ahead and kind of dive right, or actually before we get into the, breaking down the game, keys to the game, let's talk about the fact that Kansas State, the elephant in the room, got to get the monkey off our back here. I would say, of all the remaining like hateful 8 Big 12 teams, excluding which we beat Texas and Oklahoma both last year, even though Oklahoma has really had our number before that. Looking at just the hateful 8, right? The teams that stayed on with the Big 12, I would argue no team has dominated you more than Kansas State. I mean, I think I saw a stat that said we're 10, or they're 10-1 versus us in the last 11 matchups. So we've only beat them once. The last time we beat them, fun fact, you and I were at that game, was my second senior year at Texas Tech. We were sitting over there in the student section, and, we had a big lead, and they kind of, we were about to leave, and then they came back on us at the end, and it took a pretty spectacular drive by Coach Cliff Kingsbury and Patrick Mahomes to, go ahead and put a feather in the cap and cement the W. So that was the last time. That gave us 6 wins in that season before they went on eventually to beat UT 7-5, go to the Texas Bowl and play LSU. And then another game that you just can't forget, Lane, we sort of touched on it pre-pod for a second, the Matt Wells gets fired game.
And I'll argue we can thank Kansas State for this one. He was on, he kind of, the fans were really upset, and we thank Kansas State for this final punch to the head that made us jump and fire Matt Wells. So it's somewhat of a thank you, but they've definitely had our number. I mean,
Yeah.
they got one of our coaches fired essentially in a loss to them. So they've definitely had our number the past, decade, really. They've really owned us.
So you could certainly say they KO'd Matt Wells' chances at being, the Texas Tech's head football coach. That was the infamous, you're winning the game, and they have it in, I think it was 3rd and 33 or something like that. You get a hands to the face penalty on defense, gives them an automatic first down. Red Raider Nation is fuming. There's just no excuse for it. And a day or two later, Kansas State gets the dub, pulls it out, and a day or two later, it was bye-bye Matt Wells and hello Joey McGuire. So, yeah, Lane, honestly, I think we can thank them for that. But they have kicked our ass. They've had our number. And here's the thing. A lot of these games have been great games. A lot of them have been extremely close. We just can't seem to get over the hump when it comes to the Wildcats. I believe that could change this weekend. Texas Tech is a 1.5, I believe right now, 1.5 point favorite. I need to go back and check the line. That's what it was yesterday. Texas Tech opened. Well, it's weird. Circa had Kansas State as a 1 point favorite. ESPN had Texas Tech as a 1 point favorite. Most lines through, the apps that we use, most lines started with Tech at -1, now 1.5. And here's the kicker with a coin flip type game with two teams that mirror each other, the way that Kansas State and Texas Tech do. Blackout game, homecoming, night game in the Jones. I really cannot stress how excited I am that we're playing them at home this year.
Yeah, that's a big factor. It's probably arguably the biggest factor in this game because the teams are so similar record. Tech has the better momentum, though. We're coming off a big win on the road. They're coming off an absolute stinker loss on the road. And then we get to play at home. So I think coming into this game, Tech definitely rolling with the momentum. Slight favorite. We are 1.5 point favorite, like you mentioned. But, yeah, I think we come in with a lot more momentum coming off the road win. And they're coming off, arguably, I think Oklahoma State, it was, really bad after their loss to South Alabama. And then they come out and beat a team like Kansas State. So Kansas State looks to be sliding to me, depending on how Will Howard plays. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I want you to touch on that point because I think it's a fair one. And I will say this, Mike Gundy and the boys in Stillwater, they dug deep for that win. They had a guy on defense, I forgot his name as I typically do, but I think he had 15 tackles or something like that. Absolutely, electric, lights out game for a collegiate athlete for any team in any conference. Just, was blowing up Kansas State's offense. Will Howard had his worst game of the season, 3 picks, almost doubled his, amount of picks for the season. I believe he's got 7 on the season. And so 3 in that one game, absolutely horrendous showing on offense. And they still almost, they had a shot. They lost it by 9, right? Or 8. It was almost a one possession game.
8. Yeah, it's a one possession game.
Yeah.
You have a shot
on the road. So I'll be honest. I think I'm with you on the fact that Kansas State is, as far as momentum is concerned, they're reeling after that loss, and it's going to be how they respond. I do believe Coach Kleinman is the kind of coach that is going to have these guys ready. That's one of those losses where in his tenure so far, it seems Kansas State comes back and usually like Joey McGuire does, honestly. Those guys are also have very similar tendencies when it comes to their coaching styles and how their teams perform. Kansas State, I could see them coming out fired up in this game. Texas Tech riding momentum. Unfortunately, it does look like, Houston and Baylor are probably 2 of the worst teams in the Big 12 this year. I will say Baylor got a road win against UCF, and UCF, played Kansas State to what? Here, I'll pull that up real quick.
It was the final was 44-31.
Okay,
Kansas State pulling away late though. It was a good game for 3 quarters there. K-State kind of pulled away late.
Okay, so Baylor goes on the road and beats them. The Big 12 is really, we talked about this on the rip, wide open conference right now. Besides Houston, I would say Houston's just down bad. But other than that, Iowa State, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Kansas, Texas Tech, these teams. I'm trying to think who else is in there. UCF hasn't won a conference game, so I'll put them in the lower tier
Definitely
as well. But yeah, my point being is BYU is another example. There's a lot of parity there right in the middle of the conference, and then UT and Oklahoma have kind of separated themselves to this point, but we'll see what they do moving forward in the season. All that to be said, Tech, you beat a trash Houston team. There's no other way to put it. Sorry to any, Houston family member, Uncle Ted, if you're listening to this. I know he'll agree with me on that though. Houston's bad. Baylor, they have a win against UCF, and you go and you dominate them on the road. That's momentum building. But, I think you're going to see Kansas State come in pretty fired up, Texas Tech riding some momentum. This is going to be a dogfight. I'll be honest with you. We were all excited to see Tech dominate Baylor on the road. I don't see that happening in this game. I truly think it's going to be a who has more turnovers, who has more penalties at the end, who's playing sloppier brand of football, who makes more mental mistakes. This is going to be a knockout, kind of fight.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely going to be a slugfest. I think we match up slightly better against Kansas State than they match up against us. I think both defenses are going to be stout. But I think I give the edge offensively to Texas Tech. I think, if Kitley finds a way to kind of schematically come up with some, start throwing the ball better, if Morton plays a good game, I think we get a slight edge there. I think Will Howard's been so unpredictable this season. I think our defense is more likely to force him into turnovers than they are to force us into turnovers. I think we kind of can play that stat line. I think we will win the turnover battle in this one as long as Morton and Kitley kind of find it out, get it together, find out, the pass game a little bit. And I think it was positive to see against Baylor. We ran the ball great, but Morton threw the ball well when he needed to. So that's another positive coming into this one.
Yeah, no, Landon, I want to touch on that point real quick with Morton. So far, since he's came in against West Virginia, he's been a little banged up, hasn't even gotten, wasn't practicing full time or maybe even at all, taking first team reps leading up to the Houston game, still played pretty well. Luckily, Brooks was able to take over and Valdez as well. Same thing. He was practicing more against Baylor. Now he's going to be running. They're saying he's getting better, right? He's improving week by week, and it couldn't come at a better time for him to have now 2, I think, full weeks of experience under his belt, kind of fighting through this injury, because the way it's gone since Morton's really stepped into the role as QB1, Brooks takes our run game's handled the pressure. Brooks is who we're giving it to in tight situations. He's carried the load of the offensive responsibility so far, with Morton being able to have that release valve with Brooks and then just have to do his job in a less, pressure, or in a way that is not controlled by, extreme stress and pressure where all of that falls on you, right? He's sitting there. And to your point, he's making plays. He's hitting guys. He's, getting the ball out quicker. He's making his reads right. Now, receivers catching the ball is a different story, although I will say we did catch the ball a lot better against Baylor than at times against U of H, which I was proud to see. But to your point, the pressure's hasn't been on Morton. Morton has had the ability to kind of let Brooks in our run game handle the load, and then he steps up and does his thing to complement the run game. And he's done a good job. In this game, I'm with you. And one thing I think Tech fans are going to need to be conscientious going in, because there seems to be this mindset, you see it on Twitter a lot, of if anything goes wrong, 1, it's Kitley's fault, and 2, it's because he didn't hand it off to Brooks. That's the go-to, oh, we threw a pick. Well, damn, we should have handed it off to Brooks, and that's Kitley's a dumbass. When, guys, believe me, Brooks, if you notice in he's getting his touches. The guy, believe me, we are leaning on Brooks. He's getting an optimal amount of touches in these games. However, and Lane, you kind of brought this up as we were watching it, at my house, watching the Tech Baylor game. You cannot be one-dimensional. You cannot run the ball that many times. Are you guys having a lightning storm over there?
Caroline's taking pictures of me right now. There's no reason why. It's just came over and started snapping pics. But
good. That's a great on. No, that's a great wife. That's awesome. She's really hyping up the pod. Excited to share that on her Instagram, I bet. So what I was, so basically Morton, or where was I? What was I saying? I don't know. I was really getting into
I'll jump in here. After the Baylor game,
the lights gave me a headache and I freaked out.
After the Baylor game, I said,
that's right.
All popping off about how, we need to just hand the ball to Brooks every play and all this. And, against Baylor and U of H, that's great. You can do that. You can get away with it. You can heavily lean on your run game, and you don't have to, kind of rely on the pass really much, because Brooks is going to be able to. He's a good enough back to really exploit those teams. As good as Brooks is, I'm not saying, anything against him. He's a great running back. We're going to see him probably on Sundays. He's shooting up draft boards right now.
Yeah, right now, top 5 in the nation.
Yeah. However, that's not sustainable just to be able to just pound pound the ball on the ground throughout the Big 12 conference and expect to get wins week in and week out. We're going to have to throw the ball at a high clip to be able to beat the likes of Kansas State. If we want to compete with the likes of Texas or BYU on the road, Morton's going to have to step up. We're going to have to throw the ball more and take pressure off of Brooks in the run game. Yes, we're still going to need him to go off like he has been. We're still going to need to utilize the run, but we're not going to be able to be a one-dimensional team. We're going to have to become a two-dimensional team if we want to compete against teams like Kansas State going into this week. We're going to have to throw the ball.
And to your point, Kansas State has the #1 rush defense in the Big 12. And I'm not saying, look, again, the season Brooks is having, yes, I don't care. We need to feed him. We need to find ways to get him involved in the game. It's when you have a guy who's, let's put it in Xbox, NCAA terms, right? NCAA football. He's got the white circle under him. He's your impact player. So I don't care how good the other team is. And in this case, at stopping the run, you got to get him involved and you got to get him touches because he's the kind of guy that can just break one for you or get that critical first down with the way he runs. And so I'm with you, Lana, but and you're, I think, saying the same thing. We're not going to go away from the run. We're not going to go away from Brooks. That's going to be a healthy and probably more of a majority of what Kitley's schemes are going to consist of. However, when when it all comes down, or when it comes down to it, you can't sit there and just think it's, if anything goes wrong, it's because we didn't hand it off to Brooks 50 times. Like Kitley is getting him the ball now at a clip that is going to give us success. And he's also taking what the defense is giving him, but that's not going to you're not going to be able to just hand it off to him, 1,000 times a game and expect the same results. Sometimes you got to pick and choose your windows of when you're doing this. And Kitley, I think, is watching tape more than us. He sees this more than us. He knows what he's doing against Kansas State. And I'm just going to, we'll take it one game at a time. Morton, you're going to need to see more of Morton in this game. And point being is if Texas Tech's going to win, we're going to have to see Morton elevate to a level that I don't think we've seen him play so far in his career at Texas Tech. This is the teams we've beat: Tarleton State, Baylor, and Houston. While Baylor, again, they're Big 12 teams, competitive, sure. We haven't beat a good team yet this year. Where I would say that's a notch on your belt. That's a good win against a really quality opponent, right? Morton is going to have to be more involved. Our receivers, we're going to have to utilize the air raid. We're going to have to utilize the pass game while still using Brooks a healthy amount. That's what I don't want people to take this the wrong way. We're not saying stop giving Brooks the ball because he's your best player on offense. I'll say that flat out. He is your best player on offense without a doubt. You got to give him the ball, but you can't run it 50 times a game and expect him not to, fumble it sometime. And people forget he had a fumble during a very, critical kind of point of that Baylor Texas Tech game where the momentum was all on our side and we were about to go up 21-0 and we get a huge, he has a fumble there. And I didn't hear people complaining at that point saying, oh, we should have thrown a screen there. We should have, passed it more. So look, your go-to just can't be when one thing goes wrong. Oh, well, damn, we should have given Brooks the ball and we should be running it every single time. Trust the process. Kitley knows what he's doing and he's put together success. He's strung together success and had good offensive outings these last two games. We are going to have to see Morton utilized and Morton play at a higher level than what we've seen from him so far in this game, Lane.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Kitley's he's always has been, his philosophy is, take what they give you.
Yes.
And Kansas State's a team that's going to, especially after watching Brooks' last two performances all year,
they're going to try to take away the run.
They're going to try to take away our run game. They're going to heavily key on that. So what is Kitley going to have to do? He's going to have to evolve. Morton's going to have to evolve, and we're going to have to throw the ball more to open that run game back up. So, we're just going to have to see more throws, more passing attempts in this game, I think. And Morton's going to have to play at a higher clip. I think along the lines of how he did against Oklahoma State last year on the road in Stillwater. I think that was his really coming out party. He played at a really high clip in that game. That might have been I think it was his first start, but he played really high in that game. I think we're going to need to see something similar.
So, yeah, you're right. He started actually, I think his first start was West Virginia, the game we were at, where he actually but West Virginia was terrible last year, and he did light him up. And then you're right. But you're right. on the road, he goes, on Stillwater, has a shoulder injury at halftime. But that first half, we were winning and he was absolutely lighting them up. Right? I'm pretty sure we were up. So, and then he comes out and he was a little bit banged up. And that's another thing. We got to keep him safe. But yeah, we need to see, to your point, we're talking about evolving. You got to see Kitley and Morton go from a Charmeleon to a Charizard this weekend against Kansas State.
Our receivers as well. They're going to have to step up and catch the ball. That's a big thing.
You hear everyone say, run the damn ball, run the damn ball. My philosophy and my, proclamation to this team and to our Red Raider Nation, this Texas Tech football team needs to catch the damn ball. Catch the damn ball. Please catch it because, we're going to have to throw it out and air it out a little bit more. Catch the damn ball. I cannot say it and emphasize it enough. Receivers are going to have to step up big in this game. Now, Lane, I want to kind of go back and touch on this point. When you have, best on best, right? Their run defense against our run offense. Those are the two best components for these teams so far. Our pass game against their secondary. That's where I think you're going to see Tech get a little bit of an advantage because while the pass game hasn't quite been where we've wanted it to, we also haven't needed it to be, at a place farther along than it is right now because of how well we've been able to run the ball. You're going to have to, but still they've been able to execute pretty well. Can this Kansas State secondary, hold a Texas Tech pass attack that I think Kitley is going to really look to cut loose and air out this game?
Well, I think there's just so much more potential when it comes to the Tech passing game than the Kansas State passing game. I think we've seen Will Howard make mistakes and not be at his best. He's been had an up and down year, thrown a lot of picks, especially did a lot against Oklahoma State. I think there's just that much more potential from Morton and Kitley. I think you kind of lean towards our passing game over theirs right now. And I think Tech's defense kind of gets pressure a little bit more on Howard and rattles him more. I think just, the slight advantage to Tech in our passing game versus their secondary.
Yeah. And then you look at it the other way around, Lane. You brought this up pre-pod, which I want to touch on. Arguably, Texas Tech's, when healthy, best position group on defense is the secondary. They've now not in the first half against Houston, no way. But for the most part, they've come away. Dunlap has been a pick machine there for a little while. He had what was it, like two against Tarleton State and one right out of the gate against West Virginia. So when healthy, our secondary has really showcased the potential. They got returners. You have guys coming in out of the transfer portal. Taylor Demerson has been great. Baskerville, you saw him have some great plays, lighten up receivers last game against Baylor. This secondary can, someone was referring, I think with Baskerville, they call them the Hounds now, release the Hounds. We'll call them the Hounds from hell, baby. When they get going, they can do a lot of damage. And they've been one of the most improved position groups over the years that we've seen, Lane. We saw our secondary in a really bad place back with Kingsbury, and we've seen them grow and develop to where they're at now, which is one of the better parts of I would argue, the best component of our defense right now. So again, you talk about those little, marginal victories when it's your, best on best is kind of neutralized and you have your what's weaker versus what's weaker, how that looks. Will Howard versus Texas Tech secondary. I kind of like Texas Tech secondary to edge that out. However, I will say Will Howard is capable of doing a lot of damage. And you brought this up earlier. It's yin and yang, night and day. Which two-face, right? Which Will Howard, he's two-face. Which one are you going to get, man? We don't know. Against Oklahoma State, they got the Will Howard that every defense prays they see. But you've also seen him at times, really be a kind of commander out there. I was the equivalent of a floor general in basketball. He's their leader and out there, slinging it, using his legs. He's mobile. He can hurt you in the run game and be that veteran presence that they need and command, respect from the defense and move his offensive unit down the field. Which Will Howard are you going to get? That's really a big part of it.
It's a huge part of the game. And I think the biggest thing, you said, our secondary is the best part of our defense, but it's complemented by such a good pass rush kind of between our linebackers and our defensive line, who's really stepped up this year. I think you can argue our defense, hasn't, aside from the first half in the Houston game, They played really well all season. Maybe late against Wyoming in the overtime, they didn't look as good. But I mean, for 3 or 4 quarters in the Wyoming game, even our defense looked great. They looked really good against Oregon, had some big stops. So our defense have played great all year. Our secondary has been great, but our defensive line and linebackers have stepped up. They got a ton of pressure on Baylor. They were part of the reason why we won that game. If they're able to do that again against Kansas State and pressure Will Howard, I think we can force him into turnovers, and that's how we're going to win the game.
Yeah, turnovers is going to be one of the keys. It was last week. Actually, last week it ended up not being because we dominated them and really all facets of the game. This week, however, again, Coach Kleiman is not going to have this. I mean, they're going to come out fired up. They are. They're going to come out. Their season is somewhat on the line. For their standards right now, they're coming off a Big 12 championship. Both teams have one loss in Big 12 play. So, they get a big road win here that can get them back on track to where they want to go. They've had Texas Tech's number. I expect them to come out and play well. So, again, it's the little things, right? Penalties, mental mistakes, turnovers. Got to win those battles if you're going to ultimately come away with a W. Another huge component, and actually before I meant to do this earlier in the episode, but I want to give a quick shout out to this episode's sponsor, Pennant Patchworks. Go to Pennant Patchworks, all one word for the URL, pennantpatchworks.com. Guys, the hats, and I don't have one with me in here, but you've seen them, the Joey McGuire's Wrecking Services, the Old School Double T, Rope Hat, and they actually just put out a tweet, Pennant Patchworks did, from their business Twitter account, that they got a new shipment of hats. So they've been really working hard because so many were getting sold out. They have a fresh batch of hats in, new shipment. Go to their website, browse around, and because trust me, when you do, you're going to see a hat you want and you're going to buy one. Use the promo code Ramblin, RAMBLIN, all caps again, RAMBLIN, for a 10% discount on whatever your total purchase amount is. You're going to get a 10% discount on that. Promo code Ramblin, pennantpatchworks.com, Pennant Patchworks hats. They're the best hat company in the game when it comes to Texas Tech apparel. Last point I want to make, and we'll do predictions here, Lane, before we get ready for, the Air Buddies to make that magical run to the championship in the Gus League, the most prominent league for the 9-to-5 ballers, 30. Actually, Lane, you're what, 28? You're still
28 now.
You're still big. I mean, you're still a young gun 20-year-old. So
I'm still in my late 20s.
Late 20s, you're good. But we'll say, late 20s to 30s, maybe even a sneaky, low 40s in there. For us, the old school, right? This is as big as it gets. And we will update y'all. Believe me, we will let y'all know how this turns out. Ultimately, Lane, and I love talking it up because, part of the reason we started Ramblin' Raiders is that with any chance we get, we're going to hype up Texas Tech University, obviously, but we're going to hype up Red Raider Nation. We're going to hype up how passionate our fan base is and truly the home court advantage that you get in football, basketball, baseball. Soccer has been going off. Shout out to our Texas Tech soccer team. Those ladies have been kicking ass. #1 in the Big 12 right now.
Are they going to play? Are they going to get a game at the Jones?
They should. I tweeted out what the hashtag. I forgot the hashtag I used. I think it was soccer at the Jones. Kind of like Nebraska did for volleyball. I thought that was sick where they packed out their football stadium for a volleyball game. I would love to see that happen at the Jones. They set a record. It was like 90-something thousand fans for a volleyball game, and all the hype videos for that. Dude, it was sick. Yeah, and Texas Tech, I guarantee you, with soccer team, I mean, Red Raiders turn out and support all their teams: volleyball, basketball, soccer, baseball, softball, golf. I don't care what it is. You have something. Texas Tech ice hockey. I just did a hockey club interview with our boy Brandon Camp. When our teams are playing, we turn out. If you put the soccer team in Jones AT&T Stadium, I guarantee you build it, they will come.
I attended a club lacrosse game for Texas Tech, actually.
Right there, we go. Right there.
That game, yeah.
As I'm whacking my mic piece over here. Yeah, no. So I mean, there you go. Laney's Locks, prime example. We turn out for anything Texas Tech, anything Red Raiders. So on that note, the passion that's going to come through in a season where, like you said, Lane, we have momentum. It's a night game. It's October. It's a fun time to be in Lubbock, Texas, as a student and as someone who either lives there or is visiting for homecoming weekend. We got to go last year for homecoming. It was a lot of fun. This year it's a little late. It's a little later, I think, in the season, and it couldn't come at a better time. This crowd is going to be rocking, dude. Joey has instilled trust back in this Texas Tech football program. Sitting at 3-3 again, not what you wanted to be, but you get a win here, and all of a sudden you're one loss in the Big 12. You're on the heels of Oklahoma. West Virginia's they're not going to drop one to U of H this weekend, but they will drop one eventually. They will break eventually, because I just don't think they have the stamina to keep it going. One man's opinion, to keep it going all season long on the back half of the Big 12 slate. But Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, you're going to be right there on the heels, and all of a sudden you start creeping back into that Big 12 championship conversation, making your way to Arlington. Lot of implications around this matchup. My prediction, and I do think it's going to be a barn burner. So roll with the punches, swing with the, ride with the tide. This is going to be an up and down match, and I believe it could come down to a field goal, to a pick, to crucial turnover, to a last second drive. That's what this game's going to be. So take your nitroglycerin pills, as what's his name, Rothstein says. Get your anxiety medicine out. Do what you got to do. Keep your heart rate down. Drink like 30 beers. That's what me and Lane do to try to keep our heart rate down. It doesn't work all the time though. This is going to be a barn burner, but ultimately what I think gives Texas Tech the edge, Lane, in my prediction before we close this thing out, and I throw it to you, home field advantage. If we're playing this game in Manhattan, I don't necessarily know I make this pick. I think Kansas State probably gets the edge, but because it's at home, because it's in front of the best fans in the country, Texas Tech finds a way. Joey McGuire's teams play better at home. They do. It's categorically true. They play better football because they're show ponies in front of theirs truly, the faithful Red Raider Nation. They get it done. Texas Tech wins a barn burner because it's a night game at the Jones.
You got a score prediction for us, or
what's the over/under on this one? Do you have that?
I do not have that information handy.
I'm gonna go, because these defenses are. I'll go 37-35 Texas Tech.
37-35, covering the spread by a point.
Yeah. I'll give us a half a point. I'll give us a tease on that.
A man of the books himself. Look, I agree with you. I think Texas Tech's going to get it done at home in a blackout. I think that's the biggest factor, is that we're at home. I think our defense really steps up, plays well like they have all year, in my opinion. I think they're the difference. Our defense is the difference in this one. I think Will Howard has a couple turnovers, and I like Texas Tech to win this one. Defense steps up. They don't score over 30 points. Kansas State 24, Texas Tech 34. We cover. 10-point win for the Raiders at home.
And just like that, Joey McGuire's got the boys on the move, and we're dancing through the back half of our schedule trying to get to Arlington. Lane, thank you for joining me. Let's get ready to go hoop it up. For all of our followers, you guys continue to ride with us, comment, DM us, talk to us on social media. Let us know how we're doing with this content. I think we're going, this is our, I believe, 5th year, maybe 5th football season. Damn. Wild, dude. We've been doing this for
how long was Matt Wells the coach? 3 years?
3 seasons, but he got fired in the middle of this 3rd.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is our 5th football season, dude. Crazy. Wow. We've been cooking the mics here for quite a long time. So look, we love you guys. We're happy that y'all are continuing to follow us, follow our content. If you're a new listener, welcome. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, and like I said, following us on all of our social medias. I don't know if people still do this anymore, but if you're listening on Apple Pod, rate, review, subscribe. I think that's kind of a lost art these days. But yeah, YouTube, big one. Follow, subscribe. We love doing this. We love interacting with y'all, and we're going to continue to do it as football season progresses. Check the RIP episode that's coming out tonight. This one will probably come out tomorrow morning, Friday morning. Have a great Friday. Lane, any final words?
Reckham, as always, happy homecoming week to everybody out in Lubbock. Let's black out the Jones and get a dub.
I love it. Ramble on. We'll see y'all next time. I got my high shorts on, man. I'm already ready for the basketball game.